Hello, this is Geotechland, and today I'll be talking about the many ways you can support me, what social media you can follow me at, and where to keep up with my content. And then lastly, I'll talk about some exciting news for the channel, about what kind of videos I'll be making. So first things first, in terms of supporting me, when it comes to supporting me financially, one of the more standard ways are through Patreon. I've actually have one patron already, which is pretty cool. This is a good way to support what I do, and by supporting me, it just means that for like this goal, for example, I'll have more hardware to test and work with here. If I meet this goal, I can work on creating content for you part-time, and if you wanted me full-time making videos, this would be the goal here, and these are some of the rewards you can get. Now, if Patreon's not your thing though, there's also LibrePay, which is a bit more open source friendly. And not only that, but they don't take a cut of what you give. They only do charge you for like the typical transaction fees. If you do want to support the creators of LibrePay, they're also on here so for you to donate to them and community fund them essentially. This is a recurring payment. It pays usually like weekly. And again, this works very similarly like Patreon, just it doesn't have any goals or tiers, which I think they should. They don't do it because they want a more no strings attached sort of donation, but I don't mind this if you get rewards and stuff like that and a goal. That way it lets people have an idea of where the money is going and get a sense of what you're doing with it and seeing it at work essentially. So in terms of following my content, the more popular one is YouTube. YouTube obviously has its pros and cons. The cons being that it's Google, you're getting bombarded with ads, you're getting data mine tracked, but it is pretty popular and easy to follow my content here. And the videos are high quality. There's no limit on how big the videos can be. So in general, especially for gaming videos that take up a lot of space, I don't have to reduce the quality or anything like that. And so, of course, subscribe to me on YouTube so you can stay updated on the videos I post. If YouTube's not your thing, if it's a bit too mainstream for you, I'm also on Bitchute. And this is an alternative to YouTube. It's supposed to be more free speech friendly. It does get significant views, although the view counter, I don't think it counts by IP. So if you click on a video multiple times, it'll just generate views. The only downside is the videos themselves. The quality is not the best. So you're watching these videos in a pretty terrible quality. They're really meant to be watched in this type of view here, not full screen essentially. At the very least, you can watch my content, and even though it won't be the most pleasant experience. Now, my personal favorite is PeerTube because on one hand, you could watch the content in the quality that it was intended to be watched at. So for example, you can choose 1080p 60 frames per second and it looks good. Not only that, but PeerTube is decentralized, open source, community funded, whereas Bitchute is somewhat community funded. There's really no official, I don't think it's technically a company, it's just a website. And so the quality is good here on PeerTube. And some videos get views. PeerTube is still very tiny though, although it connects to the larger Fediverse or ActivityPub protocol, so you can subscribe to my channel in multiple ways, which I'll get to in a few here. So in terms of the social media, the one that I'm most active on is Mastodon. Mastodon is like similar to Twitter, and it's very popular and it's just very well built. I'm most active here. Here's where I share more of my content or more of my thoughts. And it's just very pleasant to use because you're not bombarded with ads or boosts. You can disable boosts on your timeline if you don't want to like see. They're essentially similar to retweets. There's just so much freedom and customizability that you have here. And again, this is going to be the best way to connect to me. I guess the other way is Twitter, because Twitter is still pretty popular, especially with the tech and open source community. I don't like going on Twitter that much though, because there's a bunch of ads in the timelines and stuff like that. But I'm fairly active here on Twitter, just not compared to Mastodon. Some of the social media that I'm least active on, one of them is Facebook, where I don't really get a lot of interaction on Facebook. I guess because maybe a lot of older people use Facebook more now these days, whereas younger people have moved on to other sites. So I just really use it to post my video links, and sometimes I'll share some images. It's fairly, I don't really check it often for messages or, comments here. But I mean, my channel's still pretty small, so if you leave something, I'll probably get to you. Another site, Diaspora or Diaspora. This essentially is an older type of this site was made quite a while back, like in 2010, 2011. And again, I'm not as active on this. I don't think I ever really was, because Diaspora never really became a hit like Mastodon has become. And it's essentially the same, or very similar to Mastodon. It's just really like Mastodon is really like the nicer, better version of Diaspora. And Diaspora is just not as active as Mastodon. Doesn't have the numbers like Mastodon. So it's very similar to how I use Facebook, where I'll post my video links just to have a presence. But I'm not really active on here in terms of posting like interesting thoughts or insights. Mine is kind of an interesting one because, again, I'm not that active. At one point I was more excited for it, but the foundation of Minds is that even though it's supposed to be like a very independent, free speech friendly social media, it's setting itself up to be like Facebook or YouTube, because it is a for-profit entity, and they have investors, joining and funding them. And if Minds ever becomes big and popular, it'll just behave like YouTube has been behaving lately, and more like a cable company trying to please more people to keep its business, essentially. So I foresee it, if it ever gets popular, it'll be similar to Facebook and YouTube, and I guess even Twitter. So now the other social media sites that I'm on are Instagram, and actually I just recently joined Instagram, just because, I see a lot of pages out there, so I thought I'll have a presence on here. Although, to keep in mind, it's actually Geotechland with an S, because for some reason Geotechland isn't available. And again, in terms of something like Instagram and its sort of open source counterpart, which is PixelFed, I don't plan on really posting that much here. And if I do, I don't like to share news and links to my videos, because I feel like this is not the platform for it. Whereas Minds, Diaspora, Twitter, Mastodon, I think those are more for sharing links. Whereas PixelFed and Instagram, obviously, it's mostly for images. So I just try to post interesting images. I don't post often, which is really a good thing. That way, you won't get spammed with like things you can find on my other social media. So I'll try to post interesting images, screenshots, anything relevant to the videos I make. But anywho, as you saw, you can follow me in a lot of places. So moving on to the new content you'll be seeing in the next few months or so. Recently, the Raspberry Pi 4 came out, and there's a 4GB version that can potentially, give you desktop quality performance. Hopefully I can do basic things like web browsing, creating documents, like an office suite like LibreOffice. So that's exciting. I can't wait to test this out here. I'm actually also planning on getting the Pinebook Pro, which is a laptop, an ARM-based laptop that might be daily driver material here. So this looks pretty cool. This is set to be, I think, $200, designed to be daily driver material, at least for like light web browsing and office work, similar to like the Raspberry Pi 4. So that's going to be interesting comparing the two there. And there's also the Pine phone that's coming out. This is supposed to be around $150, and it's supposed to be a very open source friendly phone that is right now being worked on to run many different Linux mobile OSs there. So if you like my Ubuntu Touch videos, it's going to be a lot. I feel like this is going to give me a lot of content to share, and it's going to be nice seeing how these Linux OSs improve over time here. There's also the Pine Tab, which will also be running a lot of Linux mobile OSs. So that's going to be pretty cool to see what really this can do. And I'm really planning on getting all these Pine products, so there's a lot that I'll have upcoming. And then there's also the Librem 5, which this one's a bit more expensive because it is like $650. And at least from the specs I've seen, I don't think it's going to be that much more powerful than the Pine phone, but I think I'm deciding on getting it and just seeing it as an investment on the channel, because again, I really like GNOME, and this is running a essentially mobile GNOME desktop environment. I'll have a lot of stuff to share, and I can compare this with the Pine phone, so that's going to be pretty cool to see the progress here. And I think that's all the news and updates I wanted to give here. And so if you're excited for the hardware I'll be testing out, you should definitely Follow me on all the social media. Subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Bitchute, PeerTube. I am pretty much everywhere. And I will see you guys next time.